from America's heartland, this is GJRB, Clinton, Iowa. The following is a GJRB podcast presentation. Now, GJRB presents The Last 7 Days. In this time of lawlessness and utter chaos, there's a program that puts it all into perspective. This is the program where men and women gather to discuss current events and how it lines up with Bible prophecy. And now, The Last 7 Days.
The Evangelical Luthern Church of Iceland launches Sunday school with a picture promoting Jesus in a dress. Jesus in a dress.
Wow. Hope they don't think that's a dress rehearsal for his return. Oh.
Yeah.
The Evangelical Lutheran Church of Iceland has raised eyebrows with a Sunday school advert depicting a trans Jesus sporting a long beard and apparently bouncing breasts.
Oh, this is distasteful.
We heard about this on Janet Person.
Yeah. This article is from it's probably.
What time does she come on then?
Probably a couple weeks old.
She comes on at 4 o'clock. Christian radio station. She goes 4 to 6.
Feinsteins and Schumer Catholics need not apply. Catholics need not apply. Anti-Catholic bigotry in the Democratic Party is back in vogue. And we're going to see this in the next nomination, Trump's nomination. The leading one is a Catholic and very anti-abortion. Of course, that's the reason why they don't like.
That's why I want to be Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, that's the reason why they don't like the Catholic Church, is because they're anti-abortion.
And you have to laugh because Nancy Pelosi's a Catholic.
You know, they like Catholics as long as they don't practice. They don't mind Catholics as long as they don't practice. The Democratic Party has a long history of anti-Catholicism. If there's anything,
Wow.
See, here's the thing: the reason why they have a history of anti-Catholicism is because the Ku Klux Klan originated from the Democratic Party.
Oh. Okay.
And the Ku Klux Klan was anti-Catholic and anti-Jew, of course, anti-black.
Right.
Of course.
Anti-immigrant.
So, anti-immigrant. So they were anti-Catholic. So this is maintained from the days that they were a Ku Klux Klan. They're anti-Semitic. They're anti-Jewish, which we see the reason why they are, against the nation of Israel and Palestinians. So this is all historical roots from when they were tied in with the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan was a part of the Democratic Party.
Wonderful.
Boy, I thought Pelosi looked like
Yeah.
she wore a mask could be improving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still more proof that we're heading into a mini ice age. We're entering into a solar minimum. We're not heating up. As a matter of fact, they're waiting for another big shot of cold water to come down from north to affect. They think that eventually it's going to cut off the Gulf Stream, which is good news that they won't have any hurricanes, but bad news in the fact that
But what was really
Florida might have
interesting
difficult
this year
raising stuff.
was that this is the first year. How many years they said they ran out of named storms because there were so many?
Now they have to go there.
I mean, they had to go to Alpha.
Right.
They'll come up with something.
What happened to Alpha? I think that kind of fizzled.
They think this is the last time they think this happened was in the 13 to 1500s, the mini ice age, which drove the Vikings out of Greenland and Iceland, and,
Right.
and
This is why they changed it to global
climate
change instead of global warming.
because there's no
global warming proved.
yeah.
No, but there will be.
And
Jesus goes back to scroll heavens, that we go over.
this is voted by both NOAA and NASA, by the way. The paper combines marine sediment cores drilled from the ocean floor from the Atlantic to the North Atlantic, and these records indicate is an abrupt increase in Arctic sea ice and cold water exported to the North Atlantic, starting from 1300s, peaking in the mid-century, and ending abruptly in the late 1300s. Crucially, the provocative paper concludes that external forces from volcanoes and other causes may not necessarily be necessary for swings in climate to occur, a previously widely-held assumption. These results strongly suggest that these things can occur out of the blue due to internal variability in the climate system. So I believe that we are increasing hurricanes. I believe that we do have an increase in volcanic activity and earthquakes, and especially under the seafloor, which makes 75% of the earth, And so I think that that's opening up cracks and heating up the water. I do believe that. But that's not this. They said that the solar minimum here, which is they think it started in 2013 and will go at least 20 to 25 years.
What was that earthquake that was recently? North Carolina had one.
So I think it's going to go at least 20 or 25 years, and that there'll be a mini ice age. That it'll be capable of shutting off the Gulf Stream, and like I said, the good news is that there will be less hurricanes, but the bad news is the growing season is going to be greatly shortened, especially in like Britain, Ireland, Scandinavia, which will be in the forefront of it. They'll be first affected.
So it'd be kind of like Alaska would have a very short season. Yeah. We watched the summers on friends out in Alaska on YouTube, and they said that they were already getting cold weather.
And this is, as I said, this is supported by NASA and NOAA. The cold times are returning. Mid-latitudes are refreezing in line with historical low activity, cloud nucleating cosmic rays, and medicinal jet stream flow. Both NOAA and NASA appear to argue, if you read between the lines, with NOAA saying we're entering a full-blown grand solar minimum in the late 20s, and NASA seeing this upcoming solar cycle 25 as the weakest in the past 200 years.
Wow. With
the agency is correlating previous solar shutdowns to prolonged periods of global cooling. So it appears like, we're heading to global cooling. And of course, what would we need if we had global cooling? Well, what would help is if we put more CO2 in the air.
Well, the thing that's interesting is my friend's podcast, he was talking about this. And he was talking about these chemtrails, the things coming out of planes and that. He said that because he's down in Texas, and I guess there's all kinds of metal or something on his vehicle. And he said we're being sprayed, and we don't, they're not telling us what's going on here.
Well, what they're saying. Hi, Tiff. What they're saying is that these storms, these fires out in west are being man-made. What they're doing is spraying aluminum sulfate and then hitting them with EMPs from both sides, these chemtrail tracks, and that it's causing sparks. and it's causing like mini
Also
EMPs.
like lightning.
It's basically creating lightning.
But because they're getting all like bent out of shape because they're blaming Black Lives Matters for starting fires too, though. They're saying
Well, the truth of it is 84% of the fires in the United States are man-made. So the idea that this is all part of climate change is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, weren't they supposed to have done something, some kind of group or something, and set the fire off in California?
Yeah, they're saying Black Lives Matters or Antifa were purposely starting fires.
And I don't doubt that.
And Molotov cocktails are thrown in.
I don't doubt that at all.
Are you sure? No.
I don't doubt that at all. Usually the case out in Western fires are man-made.
Well, it's so dry out there. Don't
Very
they have a
few.
dry lightning that's common there.
Well, that dry lightning is what they think is being man-made also.
Oh, yeah. This British guy's
Well,
smart, though. He said,
There's
they're not the clouds in the sky are not the same clouds in the sky that we grew up with. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't doubt that. And they were saying that there's an article, and I don't have it right with me, but there's some stuff that has to do with the starting of fires. And there was this one hotel that had, they lost their power. Their backup generator was fried.
Ooh.
And all their electronics were fried.
Wow.
And they actually they couldn't even open the doors. So they had to go up in the second story and jump out the window because everything was fried. Wow. And this is during the midst of a fire. And they said that the only way that could happen was through an EMP attack. And so what they say is that you spray the aluminum sulfate in the air, and then you hit that from both sides with some sort of an EMP, and then which they say is DARPA, and it hit it from both sides, and it creates like a force that goes out. It magnifies like the EMP, and
Kind of like you magnify the sun.
like it clashes, and then it shoots out. If you go like this, then the reaction is like this. So they shoot it from both sides, which sparks the aluminum sulfate, sparks the fire, and it shoots out. And that's the reason why people are seeing these little lightnings in the sky when there's no clouds in the sky. And but it's also more interesting, more telltale is how it's frying electronics, which means that it has to be man-made.
So all this is like out west right now?
Yeah.
And it could be blowing this way
Well, the smoke
with the
definitely
westward
is.
winds.
The smoke is definitely blowing this way.
You remember the Antichrist was going to call lightning down from heaven.
Yes.
Okay,
So we got a few stories about the coronavirus.
Where's the jaw dropper?
Well, we don't. I'm probably holding the jaw droppers, but
Jaw droppers.
I'm waiting. I gotta tell you, so the jaw droppers is in the area of the Antichrist. There is
Save
some
those for Brian
amazing
comes along to
stuff.
listen to this.
There's some amazing stuff concerning the Antichrist. Okay, couple of things. Coronavirus camps are popping up. They popped up first in New Zealand, then in Quebec City in Canada, and also in Ohio.
Oh.
Ohio. Now, if you think this is a strictly Democrat-Republican thing, it's not. The state of Ohio, under the leadership of Republican Governor Mike DeWine, is opening up quarantine camps across the state to detain children who are suspected of being infected with the Wuhan virus, COVID-19. According to U.S. Center of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC adversary, kids who are believed to potentially have the dreaded coronavirus will be forcibly detained in these camps, which will be run by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. In the event the child is deemed to not have an adequate quarantine space at home. FEMA and the CDC will now have the power to abduct the children overnight and possibly much longer until it is determined that he or she can safely return home.
As soon as you turn 18.
3 types of people who will be sent to Ohio's FEMA camps include those who test positive for the coronavirus, COVID-19, who did not require hospitalization but needed isolation, including those existing from hospitals. Those who have been exposed to COVID-19 who do not require hospitalization, and then those who are high risk that need social distancing as a precautionary measure.
When's that going to be?
Now, right now. So
What did they say? They didn't say what part of Ohio.
COVID?
What? Yeah.
How convenient.
Well, for children, which are the least likely to get it.
Yeah.
More like kidnapping.
And then, there's so much on this coronavirus. I just thought I'd take some things that probably have not been talked about. CDC failed coronavirus tests were tainted with the coronavirus.
Uh-oh.
Initially in February, the coronavirus tests tested positive because there was coronavirus in the test tubes.
Now, how did it get there?
Yeah. Good
As
question.
the new coronavirus took root across America, the U.S. Center of Disease Control, CDC, and Prevention sent states tainted lab test kits in early February, that were themselves seeded with virus. Federal officials have confirmed the contamination did not spread the virus to people, but it made test results uninterpretable, and because testing is crucial to contamination efforts, it lost the country's invaluable time to get ahead of the advancing pandemic. So this article blames the CDC for, of course,
Which it should,
because it's not only just
Yes.
this. The CDC is the problem, but the CDC has been vague about what went wrong with the test. Initially only saying that the problem is in the manufacturing of one of the reagents had led to the failure. So back in February, the early tests had coronavirus in them.
This is a picture of the concentration.
Which is a way...
Which skewed all the results.
Skewed the results, got the
Made
panic.
us all locked down, broke the bank of small America.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, who has to pay for all that? Oops, I made a mistake. Because they got federal money for this too. Each result they got federal bucks for.
It was a purposeful mistake.
Yeah.
That's how I see that.
The biggest oops you've ever seen.
Now this is an interesting one. I actually bought this movie, Hedgehogs.
Oh, yeah.
2016 children's movie called Hedgehogs depicted a global pandemic originating in Asia and could only be stopped after vaccine was given. Now I watched this movie, and
How do you get that now? Is that on streaming?
yeah, you can get it streamed.
It's on Hulu?
Well, yeah, I think you can find it. I just went out and bought it. It wasn't that big of a deal. So I wanted to see it. This movie was made in 2016. Okay. During this time, of the movie, there is a virus that has broken out. Now the backdrop of this is it looks like in China. So there's a outbreak, and people with hazmat suits are spraying the streets.
Like in China.
Like in China, like your other places.
I did see that movie. Yeah.
So they're spraying the streets, and they're saying that this is a virus that attacks the respiratory system. And they're blaming it on small animals, much like the coronavirus with bats. In this movie, they're blaming small animals, including hedgehogs. Okay?
Wonderful.
Now, they only wear masks when they see small animals, because they believe that this is a source of the infection. So whenever they see it's like a small animal, everybody puts on the mask, to prevent from getting infected. Now, there's a bad guy in this movie, and he's a rich guy.
Probably has glasses, kind of small, scrawny guy.
Yeah.
Dr. Fauci?
or Bill Gates.
Yeah, Bill Gates.
So there's a rich guy, and he's trying to prevent this spread, supposedly, and he's telling everybody until everybody takes the vaccine, this is not going to go away.
Right.
And it's a respiratory virus. So then he says, meanwhile, we have to open up camps. Okay? So they catch this hedgehog, Benny the Hedgehog. They catch him, and his henchmen come in, and they go, and he tells them they have to send him to the camp. So the henchmen say, which camp? The cotton candy camp or the extermination camp?
Oh.
And so the rich guy goes, you shouldn't be talking like that. But anyhow, apparently there's a camp for the cotton candy camp, and then there's the extermination camp. So, when you start seeing camps being developed, and
This one in here looks almost like Nazi Germany camp.
it is,
Yeah.
It's a picture of Nazi Germany.
That's what I thought.
I got the one of in Quebec City in Canada that is an actual picture of the concentration camp, because they're just building these now in Ohio. So I find this really interesting. The people wear masks immediately out of fear. Then, what also is interesting is the infected animals were subsequently tracked with GPS locators. Now, in the movie, it said that they could track within an inch. So they caught these small animals and they put a GPS tracker on them. And while they're probably, putting the camps together is what I would think. But anyhow,
Lovely.
they were testing these to see, testing these animals. And that's what the movies are out there, out testing these animals. And they were called shelters. These camps were called shelters, and the operation was called Operation Bye Bye.
That's hilarious.
Operation Bye Bye. Well, this is not good
That
morning.
guy does remind me of Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, here's a picture of the bad guy. The henchmen looked at each other confused and asked, "Is this the cotton candy one, Doctor? Is Operation Bye Bye the cotton candy one or the extermination one?" One of the henchmen asked out loud. The diabolical doctor went on to explain to the young men who wanted to save the animals that the hedgehogs are disease-carrying varmint and need to be eradicated for the greater good.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So it's an interesting movie. Remember, this is written 2016. So it had some interesting points to it.
Seen that movie. I think he did say that movie. I'm gonna watch it again.
So that gets us to the final story. This is a prolonged article. It has several aspects to it, but we're going to start out with this. Satanists and witches for Biden.
Okay.
Which seems to get the support of the Democratic.
Which one are they?
Well, I'm about ready to tell you which one.
Yes.
These aren't just any witches or Satanists.
I posted something on
witnesses
Facebook
and
that was hilarious.
witnesses and Satanists are supporting Joe Biden. This is the witchcraft that comes from Black Lives Matter.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
What
Say
is
the
it?
name.
IFA. IFA.
Yeah. It comes from Africa.
Comes from Western Africa,
You
IFA.
have to say the name of the person that died to invoke the spirit.
Right. And that spirit then comes to help you. But here's the thing.
That's why they make everybody say the name.
Isn't that like coming out of Antifa?
No, this is from Black Lives Matter. First of all the Black Lives Matter leaders are lesbians. And they're all witches, which shouldn't surprise you. Because lesbian and witchcraft just go hands in hand. But here's the interesting part. I'll just get right to it.
Okay.
First of all, it's involved in let's see here. IFA.
No, I think the one I was thinking of was Antifa. It was a lady that headed up Antifa.
Well, the leaders of Black Lives Matters are all IFA worshipers. But I mean, Antifa could be too. They believe in magic. They believe in witchcraft, sorcery, ceremonies, and divination. But here's.
I heard that's the one in the book of Revelation.
There has to be sacrifices made. Okay. But on the whole, things offered are those things which are used by the human being in their day-to-day lives, ranging from the smallest things and non-living things to the biggest domestic animals like the cow, and in some very special circumstances, human beings are offered.
This is something about pig head.
Yes. So, it comes from Western Africa, and it is related to Santeria and voodoo, and has spread by the slaves that were taken and moved to the Caribbean and down to Central South America. Let's read this article. Black Lives Matter leaders discuss resurrecting a spirit so that it can work through us. In a June 13 conversation between Black Lives Matter BLM co-founder Patrice Colliers
That's one I was.
and Black Lives Matter Los Angeles chapter co-founder Melina Abdullah discusses how the two of them have become very intimate with the spirits we call on regularly. And Colliers, which is the founder of Black Lives Matter, one of the three founders, talks about how using a hashtag for Black Lives Matter is almost resurrecting a spirit so that it can work through us. We're invoking our ancestors, says Abdullah. A conversation between two Black Lives Matter activists took place after a live performance art event by Colliers entitled A Prayer for the Runner. The performance was sponsored as part of the June Pride Month by the Fowler Museum at UCLA. Colliers identifies as queer, and she is married to a Black Lives Matter activist, Janika Khan, who also identifies as queer. In addition to Black Lives Matter activism, Melina Abdullah is the chairman of the Department of Pan-African Studies in Cal State LA. She is the director of the Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam Abdullah spoke at the 2015 Million Man March organized by Farrakhan. Also a supporter of Islam, the Nation of Islam.
Imagine.
In the interview, Abdullah states, "Maybe I'm sharing too much, but we've become very intimate with the spirits that we call on regularly. Right. Like each of them seems to have a different presence and personality. You know, I laugh a lot."
Yeah, she has conversations with them.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the persons she has conversations with is Rashika Wilson, was a black woman who suffered from bipolar disorder and reportedly hanged herself while in LAPD custody. Her death has become a cause celebrity among the Black Lives activists. Collier responds saying that she was. Now this is another thing. You can't make this stuff up. The Black Lives Matter people are connected with the Nation of Islam. No big surprise.
Also New Age. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they're connected to IFA, which is this black voodoo. Well, voodoo and Santeria is basically, like in the same family.
Right. It's a religion of Mary.
It's a combination
Catholic
it's
and voodoo.
Roman Catholic
Voodoo.
processes and ceremonies
Wow.
and
They walk around with a black
witchcraft.
Mary. Yeah, Black Mary. They take around black.
But what else is the common denominator with these lesbian co-founders of Black Lives Matter that are in the IFA and the Nation of Islam? Jehovah's Witnesses.
Wonderful.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
A new one.
Matter of fact, one of the co-founders of the Black Lives Matter was a Jehovah's Witness. Let's see here.
Well, I'm glad I got the Catholic in her.
Wow. Well, it doesn't surprise me. But
Well, it doesn't surprise you, but
it sounds like they're a mixture. It's kind of like as they go along, they're picking up these, like it's sitting here that Jimmy Carter was obsessed with seeing a UFO.
Said Bill
15% of Democrats believe in UFOs.
So Patricia Colliers is one of the 3 Black Lives Matter founders, lesbian. Colliers responds saying that she was raised a Jehovah's Witness, but as I got older, ancestor worship became really important. Colliers then explains how the hashtags such as "Say Her Name" and "Black Lives Matter" are meant to honor the dead and invoke them. Black Lives Matter hashtag is meant to invoke these spirits.
If the protesters ever get in your face and say their name and try to make you say their name, if it costs you your life, do not say their name.
Because they're trying to get you to invoke these demonic spirits.
I say, in the name of Jesus, rebuke you.
Yeah, that's what I was.
In the name of Jesus. Howdy he, ya bum.
Hey, I got a name for you, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The name above all names. The name of Jesus, every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. Yeah.
Patricia Colliers, again, the person who's invoking these spirits, founder of Black Lives Matter, saying that if you speak the name Black Lives Matter, you're invoking, speaking the name of Black Lives Matter means to speak the name of these spirits. I'm sure in a favorable way, Patricia Colliers is one of the 3 co-founders of Black Lives Matter, along with Alicia Garza and Opal Tometi. Colliers is credited with creating the hashtag Black Lives Matter in 2013 after the acquittal of George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin's cases. She cites Weather Underground member Eric Mann as being an inspiration and her mentor. In a video, Patrice Colliers describes herself and Garza as trained Marxists. Of course, Marxists are communists. We now call progressives, and because in like 1913, the Communist Party switched over to the Progressive Party. And of course communism is satanic in the fact that it denies God and His Word.
Right. He's under Lenin.
So
12 young men and I can close their minds for communism.
this shows us what is running, and bear in mind, like if you got Verizon, U.S. Cellular, if you shop at major stores, Walmart, they all support Black Lives Matter.
Wow, you have to write those lists down so we can keep them going.
Well, initially there was a list of 240 companies, Target, Walmart. You can't hardly buy anything or do any business with anybody that doesn't have Microsoft,
Apple.
yeah, Google.
You don't have to be out of the world.
You would have to go back to the Stone Age and rub two sticks together if you tried to boycott.
Exactly.
Well,
There's plenty of sticks up there, isn't it?
My whole thing is why are all these companies, every stinking company that you know now, run by liberals? Are there no conservative people that own companies, or run companies, or are on the boards of companies?
Well, the thing that amazes me is like I watch Grit, which is a channel that shows Western.
yeah, I've seen that. It's off a channel.
Well, they're a supporter of Black Lives Matter. They flat up that commercial every once in a while.
Who's that?
Grit, the
cowboy show.
yeah, the Western channel.
Oh, yeah.
It's off of channel 4, I think. Is it channel 4? Or off of 4 or 6?
So they have a whole list of deities.
I want to eat from there.
IFA has a whole list of deities. Agun, Agun, the god of iron, war, justice, and the chase. Yin, Osanyyin, the god of magic and medicine. And I'm going to tell you something. It would not surprise me if you do not see like this name for the god of medicine show up somehow with the coronavirus.
Yeah.
What's the
Would
name?
not surprise me at all.
What's the name of it?
It's Osanyyin, the god of magic and medicine. I mean, these are all the goddesses they worship.
Right.
And notice most of them are goddesses
Well, that's
because they're lesbian. And,
Well, not only that, but it goes back to the old Roman influence of different goddesses. I mean, Diana was a woman. So.
And another thing that I find interesting in the list of goddesses and gods that they worship in IFA is the goddess of all rivers. And then there's a goddess of the river Niger. And then there's a goddess of the river Ashun. When all these waterways turn blood red,
I was saying the same thing.
much like in plagues in Egypt.
That's why.
Yeah.
I always said that he's the director over
Oh, is that one country that had all that water turn red?
Well, it's happened in a number of places, but
Did you know that the Williams sisters are a witness?
yeah.
Fabulous.
And what's his name? The golfer, the black golfer, he's Buddhist.
Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Well, and what I find also interesting is that back in the 80s, there were people that actually believed that Michael Jackson was Michael the Archangel. It was particularly common in New York City, in Brooklyn, which is where the Jehovah's Witness headquarters are at.
Become very intimate with the spirits that we call on regularly, right? Like each of them seems to have a different presence and personality. I laugh a lot with Waukesha, and I didn't meet her in her body, right? I met her through this work.
It's a very important practice. Hashtags for us are way more than a hashtag. It is literally almost resurrecting a spirit so they can work
Now, who's
through us
the guy?
to get the work that we need to get done.
That's
I
not a
started to
guy.
feel
That's a girl.
Oh, I can't see from over here.
personally connected and responsible and accountable to them.
Oh, okay, it is a girl.
Both from a deeply political place, but also from a deeply spiritual place. And always, you know, in my tradition, you offer things that your loved one who passed away would want, you know, whether it's like honey or tobacco, things like that. And that's
Keep on going,
so important, not just for us to be in direct relationship to,
including human
but also
sacrifice.
for them to know we've remembered them. I believe so many of them work through us.
Black Lives Matter is ran by 3 witches.
Lesbian witches. Lesbian witches.
Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opa Tometi. She's of Nigerian descent. They are all 3 are part of the Black Ule Secret Society, and they are witches, they're warlocks, and the entire spiritual dogma or doctrine of Black Lives Matter is from African religion called Odu Ifa, capital O-D-U, then spacing capital I-F-A. But over 3,000 different religions in Africa, or Akibelon, is rooted in witchcraft and divination.
Who's that
I
guy?
feel like in our traditional practice, and people that practice, you know, traditions from West African places, one of the big things is remembering your ancestors. And I feel like part of the story, the building of BLM was about remembering and remembering our people, not based off of a white supremacist memory, which would be about, you know, slandering them and putting their names in the newspaper and showing their mugshots, but instead remembering them from the place that their mothers and their fathers and their family would want us to remember them in, even if we didn't know them personally.
So these 3 witches, Alicia Garza, Opa Tometi, okay, and Patrice Cullors, are using the psyop of the witchcraft religion of Odu Ifa, which concentrates on 16 points of demonic possession and demonic influence through demonic performance.
What was that?
Libations.
What was that?
Because the term libation means the liquid of darkness.
When we come out into the streets and we pray, you know, the first thing that we do when we hear of a murder is we come out, we pray, we pour libation, we build with the community where the person's life was stolen. And it took almost a year for me to realize that this movement is much more than a racial and social justice movement. At its core, it's a spiritual. Because
It's a
we're
spiritual
literally
movement.
standing on spilled blood, right? And you can't pretend like that's work that's just like some organizing work. That's, you know, that's some serious stuff, right?
They give libations, they pour liquid, what they say, unto the gods of Africa. It's all built on witchcraft.
When we say their names, right, so we speak their names, we say her name, say their names, we do that all the time, that you kind of invoke that spirit, and then those spirits actually become present with you, right?
So then Black Lives Matter has 16 chapters in the United States and in Canada, which each chapter represents a name of a god or goddess in the Ifu religion called Odu Ifu, which has 16 points, 16 chapters of demonic possession. Black Lives Matter, they're operating through both omnikinesis and telekinesis. It's witchcraft. Wherever they go to create mayhem and destruction, they send witches, and every satellite head, every person of these 16 chapters of Black Lives Matter, they are a witch and a warlock. So with Black Lives Matter, they have molded themselves after a serpentine psychology. All 3 of these women are witches. They're warlocks.
Spirituality is
Oh yeah,
Black Lives
I mean they're all
Matter.
witches.
And
And warlocks.
I think that's not just for us. I feel like so many leaders and so many organizers are deeply engaged in a pretty important spiritual practice. I don't think I could do this work without that. I don't think I could do it as long as I've done it and as consistently. It feels like
Yeah, because you
if
need
I did
demonic
that, it would be
empowerment
antithetical
to do it.
to this work.
To defeat Black Lives Matter,
That's what
to
Hillary
defeat the ANC, you can't defeat these organizations through the barrel of a gun. You can only defeat the ANC and Black Lives Matter through spiritual warfare.
In the Bible, both the Old and New Testament, it's clear that when we die, we no longer have cognitive thought, or, obviously, the ability to communicate, as if we are asleep. But man dieth and wasteth away. Man giveth up the ghost. And where is he? As the waters fail from the sea, and the flood decayeth and drieth up, so man lieth down, and riseth not, till the heavens be no more. They shall not awake, nor be raised out of their sleep. Job 14:10-12. So, if the founders and leaders of Black Lives Matter are in fact communicating and speaking with spirits or entities, who are they talking to? Demons? Or are they just talking to themselves? Whether actual contact is made or not, these sort of practices are forbidden by God, as clearly described in Deuteronomy 18:10-12. There shall not be found among you anyone that useth divination, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Again, is Black Lives Matter run by witches, or just crazy?
Witches and crazy people.
It sounds like they have their own zodiac.
Yeah, it did look like a zodiac. It did look like a zodiac
Looks
sign.
like zodiacs.
Well, the whole thing is it was like from the beginning, you thought, there's something more, something deeper to this.
Yeah.
And God always reveals those things, but we as Christians need to recognize the enemy and know the enemy.
Right.
Because we have to understand that this is not a war that is for our government to take care of. This is a spiritual war that the church has to encounter and confront.
Right.
So the point that we were trying to make here is that even that video doesn't really do justice to the fact that all these spirits have to be appeased, basically, make libation to them. They have to be appeased, and they make sacrifices, and these sacrifices can include humans. And what I originally started out with is the fact that Satanists are backing again the Democratic Party for the nomination of the president and Joe Biden, and this is the same group of people. This is a Satanist in their various variations merging together to try to replace and get rid of Christianity. This is the reason why I believe that if Joe Biden gets in, the choices are if Trump becomes president, then these organizations, there are terrorist organizations, which are satanic organizations. They're anti-God, anti-church people. They will attack the church. The difference is if Biden gets in, it will be government-sponsored attack upon the church.
Right. Yeah,
so either way, we get it.
If you don't think Camilla doesn't know about this and isn't part of it, you're a fool.
Yeah.
Who?
Camilla Harris.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
Why do you think
we are foolish if we don't prepare for this.
Why do you think she's put herself in front of Trump? Or in front of Biden? Harris Biden.
If we think that, the news makes it look like when the BLM or Antifa execute somebody, police officer, an old man, woman, they make it look like it's just a random attack. There is nothing random about it. These people are driven to these because first the police officers are the protectors. They symbolize the protectors. Then you have the old people, which are the weak. You have the mothers, which are the innocent. These aren't just people out of random.
These are people that they're making sacrifices of.
And there's a reason why they're making their sacrifice out of these people. They're just not random sacrifices. Right. There's a reason why they're picking these people.
So, would they pull up like in a van and kidnap somebody?
Well, it's like that when that guy executed the guy standing with the Trump hat. They said they shot him because of the Trump hat. He was in the leadership of a prayer group. That's why they targeted him.
Wow.
They directly attacked one of God's people.
I know that there was a story a while back, I think it was in McDonald's or something like this, but there was a military guy, I think Marine Corps or something, and like six people surrounded him that were from the Black Lives Matter and tried to beat the living tar out of him or something. And then, of course, they had that Democrat guy walking down those steps of the Capitol, and he was attacked by Black Lives Matter, and he was a Democrat.
Yeah.
He knocked him down and started beating on him. He said, "Wait, I'm a Democrat." Yeah.
The story that's buried about this last one where they just had the decision and everybody went nuts, Brianna or whoever it was.
Oh, Brianna Taylor in Louisville.
She's a drug addict.
The story that they're burying is why they went to her house is because she used to handle that ex-boyfriend's drug dealer's money. She was her money guy.
Oh.
And they say that they busted in without knocking. They knocked.
And announced themselves.
And then they didn't fire back until one of them got hit.
And the boyfriend started shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not brought out, though.
Well, it's buried
because
that doesn't fit the narrative.
That's the reason why they were acquitted. The only charges is the ones that the one that shot wildly into a hit went into another person's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Which if you say you're dodging and trying to shoot at the same time,
Right.
there may be a stray bullet.
Yeah. They never ran a story.
Which is,
I think the one with the neck on
the news media is famous
for the neck. That was filmed. That was fact. But he was also. They didn't tell the story either that he was trying to avoid the police, and he was. I think he was a drug. I don't know if he was a drug dealer.
He had a sheet this long. That guy did.
Yeah.
And when they were holding him down, what they're not telling you is that hold was something that they were taught to do to keep people that were under the influences of drugs from hurting them or themselves.
Right.
And the guy, when he died, he didn't die because because they were standing on his neck. He died of a heart attack because of the drugs that were in his system.
Yeah, and that would create, not stress, but
realize when they had him in the squad car, he was already saying, "I can't breathe," and they didn't touch him.
Mm-hmm.
He was an angel. I know that.
Also, what I find interesting is, in the mid 1980s, Pentecostal Christian church membership surged by people promising that there would be material blessings if they followed the teachings of what they were teaching. And of course, it didn't work out that way. And now the same areas are turning toward IFA because the failed promises of material success.
So they're promising a better life.
So now, Black Lives Matter is promising a better life, one of prosperity,
of ruling, the oppressive class.
That concludes this edition of The Last 7 Days. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Spreaker or GJRB. Join us next time, here on Spreaker, for another podcast of The Last 7 Days on GJRB. This has been a GJRB podcast presentation. Ed Delgado has his opinions, and he will make them known.
I'm sorry, I got no room in my heart, no mercy in my heart for a child molester, pedophile. To me, when I think about monsters like that, there is only one sentence to me that is acceptable, and that literally is the death penalty.
Politics, entertainment, wide variety of topics.
I like to point out the racial hypocrisy that goes on from the racist left
as they try to project that onto the conservatives and the right.
Listen to great talk radio at its best since Rush Limbaugh, the Caramel Conservative. Ed Delgado, Tuesday nights live on Spreaker at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, here on Spreaker, and rebroadcast Saturdays, just ahead of the Gary Russell program Saturday Extra, on the GJRB online network. Imagine one day tuning around on your internet radio only to find a station playing old radio programs complete with commercials and thinking, what am I tuning into? The past? You might be, or it's just GJRB Online and Radio Land, a day of nothing but classic radio shows back to back with classic commercials in between, like the days of radio, almost like your computer is picking up signals through time. Closer than you'll ever get to time travel, Radio Land. Strange things in the sky and around the world. Strange beings sighted. What's going on? All around us, conspiracy theories are being discussed. This is the show all about the strange things that are way out there. I'm Gary Russ, and this Way Out There's back with more weird stories of the strange and the bizarre. Keep looking up in the sky and let me know what you see. Way out there. Every third Friday of the month at 3 o'clock Central and anytime on GJRB. You never know when GJRB is going to be on the air. More programming, more often, on the internet, on GJRB. Imagine one day tuning around on your internet radio only to find a station playing old radio programs complete with commercials and thinking, what am I tuning into? The past? You might be, or it's just GJRB Online and Radio Land, a day of nothing but classic radio shows back to back with classic commercials in between, like the days of radio, almost like your computer is picking up signals through time. Closer than you'll ever get to time travel, Radio Land.
This is GJR Broadcasting.